Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the session on app modernization, security agenda, taking care of volume, velocity, diversity, heterogeneity, and agility. I am Shaurya Kaushik, your host for the session. I would like to introduce our esteemed panelists. I would like to welcome Mr. Somit Chitre, Global Head Fraud Risk, Lending, Partnerships, and Digital Assets for CPBB, Standard Chartered Bank. Ms. Hima Vajela, Senior Manager, Software Engineering Security, OpenTech. Welcome, ma'am. Mr. Jayesh Warrior, Vice President Sales, APEC, Induspace. Welcome, sir. Mr. Bimal Puri, Senior Vice President and CIO, Fluorochemical and Technical Textile Business, SRF Limited. We welcome you, sir. Last but not the least, I would like to welcome Mr. Sheikh J. Ahmed, Vice President of Risk, Governance and Information Security, Mashreq Bank. We welcome you, sir. Mr. Sheikh will be moderating the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Shaurya. And thanks to Data Security Council of India for giving me this opportunity to be along with you here for this wonderful topic today, that is application modernization. From a security perspective, like what is the concerns, the aspects we shall cover as part of journey to modernizing our applications actually. So we have a wonderful, highly experienced panel here. So let's take a small look into their experience and their profile, so that the interaction with the panelist and the audience can be more fruitful. Over to you, Bimalji. We'll start with Bimalji. Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I believe that post lunch we have a little, audience who are really interested to listen. So thank you for being here. I'm Bimal. I am working for SRF as CIO, and also I am part of various CIO associations, and especially we have a Pan-India association which runs CIO Club, where all the CIOs, and we do a lot of sessions along with the SCI are now on the security aspect. So I think today's agenda will be very interesting to see how we can modernize the app going forward.
Sure, Sumitji. Next, over to you.
Thanks, Bimal, for the interesting introduction. So, hi everybody. My name is Somit. I'm the global head for lending fraud, partnership fraud, and digital asset fraud with Standard Chartered Bank. A small introduction about me would be around over 20 years of experience in the same area. And when we talk about today's subject, which is app modernization around security, I'll be covering the risk around fraud and propensity of the fraud impacting the agenda of the discussion. So, thank you.
Thank you, Sumit. Jayesh ji, over to you.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Jayesh, and I am the VP of Sales at an application security company called Induspace. Prior to this, I was with Wipro, handling their businesses for India and for APJ. And there I was also part of some of the modernization initiatives that were taken for some of our customers. And it's a privilege to be part of this elite panel. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Jayesh. That's really helpful. With your, I believe, experience of doing the moderation for your clients as part of your Wipro journey, yeah. I believe we can learn a lot from this discussion today. Thank you, Sumit. Over to you, Hima.
Can you all hear me? Hi, my name is Hima. I started my career as a developer and then played multiple roles like technical architect and also product owner. I worked with Microsoft as a technical lead in security, and I moved to Wells Fargo Securities, and worked as a lead security architect for Wells Fargo Security, and now working with OpenText as security business unit, leading NCASE forensics and also Bricata products. I'm very passionate about bringing women back into security. Thanks to the few women who are attending this session. Hope it would be helpful. Bring more women, and I'm also part of several women initiatives in community, like Cyberspace Queens and Women in Cybersecurity and Executive Women's Forum. Do reach out to me if you need more details.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Hima. And we are really privileged to have you here. As part of my professional career, I seen you like in multiple forums where you represented, like I mentioned, the other community here. And on top of it, like thanks for the service you are doing for the like I mentioned, the women in cybersecurity and bringing the like I mentioned, the women more into the security kind of a thing. It's really great to know you and great to have you here on the panel actually. Thank you for joining us. And about me, myself, Sheikh, as part of my professional career, I take care of information security risk and governance for one of the Dubai-based bank, uh, Mashreq Bank to be precise. And whatever the views discussed here along with me, along with my panel members here, panel speakers, it will all be personal views, professional views, not related to our organizations where we represent, quote unquote, kind of a thing. And about me, like I'm a veteran from Armed Forces of India. So I served this country for 2 decades, and this is another almost a decade into the corporate world. So had a very diversified journey from armed forces to uniform to corporate kind of a thing. So thank you for supporting me on the journey from the corporate side. Thank you very much. So let's take a step into the today's wonderful topic where it is a concern for all of us actually. So since like as part of our new normal journey started around 2.5 years back, we all seen how organizations rush to modernize their environment actually. And the security, we all see like earlier when before COVID normal, whatever we talk about, we used to talk about only the security of the firewalls or the enterprise perimeters. But this firewalls security has been spread across to the four walls of the bedrooms now. Since like we need to secure our environments, like our enterprise, like I mentioned, the responsibilities has like expanded from the organizational firewalls up to the like wherever the digital identities are moving, wherever the human beings are there, wherever our employees has been spread. So how about not only securing the like I mentioned the entities, and how about securing the applications? So there was a issue like which almost 80% of the organizations has faced while COVID has fallen on us. That is modernizing their legacy stacks actually. So how to rush to meet the digital journey and the digitization journey, and how we can like immediately be available online. Majority of the organizations, majority of the businesses, we know that like they were on-prem businesses, in-person businesses, and suddenly they happen to be like I mean say making their presence felt into the online to be existing in the business. That is the rush actually which actually triggered this like I mean say the thought of how effectively, securely we can modernize or digitize our application like I mean say the volumes actually. So Vimalji, like as we all know, like with your deep expertise into the the engineering, the applications, modern day applications, can you help us like what are the triggers, how this application modernizations, the journey can be planned or strategized actually, and on top of it, like what are the key aspects we all need to keep in mind before like we like I mean start our application modernization journey.
Yeah, sure. So I just want to give one thought here is that important is that whatever steps or strategies we form for application modernization, they must be aligned to the organization goals. That is one first step which we should look for. And if we see when we look after applications and moving from legacy or even like nowadays, even the modern applications need to be relooked upon because there are a lot of dimensions like reliability. So like if your application fails because of any threat or anything, so it should recover fast. So like we have been sharing few examples on that front, and we have seen latestly a lot of attacks has been happening. So that is the first important step which we must consider on that. So security again a key important parameter when we are moving towards public space, especially, and going towards cloud native applications, especially. And like I will tell you, there are a lot of APIs which are floating around nowadays, and you never know that which API will lead you to a problem. And the latest examples we were discussing with Som today, and I personally feel that security has to be taken care of very rigorously. And another important aspect or a step you have to consider is on the cost side, because most of the time we just look at the one-time cost and we don't consider TCO for the organization. And lately we land up into more troubles, and we realize that TCO is much higher compared to what we envisage in the uh, beginning. And all these three important aspects will lead us to better operational efficiencies or application efficiencies which we are looking at, and the strategies has to be formulated around these five basic pillars of modernizing the app. And it is a need of the hour today, because today every I mean, I don't know, I don't look on the current problems or current need, but if we see connect us with our coming generations and the way we work, we primarily work on new applications. Every day new application is coming, and people don't want to get into again old web-based legacy system and want to work. So that is another key change or a shift I have seen in the industry, and people are actually looking for good organizations or resources, technical organization who can support these strategies. So that is also one of the important aspects.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bimalji. And coming back on your the suggestions which you mentioned, including the agility and having moving the security towards left, so that we have the focus on the security and in the agile development of the applications. Let me connect with Jayesh, since Jayesh, you take care of DevSecOps, and you are in an organization whose focus is more onto the app modernization, application modernization, and application security. Can you help us understand what is the importance of thinking towards or starting towards left, shifting towards left?
Yeah, so when we're talking about application modernization, one of the things that is pretty much important, and we all need to look at it, is from a DevSecOps perspective, because it's all about having three facets of any development into looking at it holistically, which is development, and then operationalizing it, and then having security on top of it, right? So that's part of a CI/CD pipeline, and conventionally we all have been looking from a DevSecOps perspective. It was only development first, and then post that there is an operation which is putting the applications into a production environment, and then looking at the testing of it, right? So that's where the amalgamation of DevSecOps, Dev and Ops came into picture. And then later point of time, it was figured out that to modernize applications, one of the things that which Vimalji just touched upon is that for any modernization, you need to have microservices, because a large monolithic applications will not help significantly from a modernization perspective, right? You need to break it down, and when you are trying to break it down, you have an opportunity to bake in security, and that's what the core fundamental of any DevSecOps is, right? So typically what happens in a development is that you do the development, and then you have a lot of testing. The development could be building some APIs which you touched upon to refer to your old legacy application, because you cannot just throw them away. It's very important for any organizations to function. That's one part of it. Second is to build applications which is using new technologies and all that. And third one is there are a lot of open sources available as well, and looking at them. And then we all have been talking about going to the cloud. Now we are going to an infrastructure which is pretty much unknown. You need to, the best thing that you can do is secure yourself, right? And when you're doing that, and we are doing, whether it is modernizing your existing applications or building new applications, that's where the security has to be baked into, or it has to be ingrained. That's what I say. It's to be ingrained into your application, into development or modernization. Now, when we are trying to do that, we touched upon resources as well, right? Some point of time, you need to first is look at educating your resources so that a lot of the, we all talk about development and testing, but testing is functional testing, stress testing and all this stuff. But security is something which is looked at the later point of time. Now, what happens is, why we are doing modernization is one of the aspects is agility, right? So if you build an application over 3, 6, 8 months, and then after building it up and putting into production, and then you find there are ample number of vulnerabilities, you're going back again, trying to fix those or maybe rebuild some of the components, you're losing a lot of time. So that's where there is a compromise on agility. Second is when you're trying to build that up, there is a cost element, resource, infrastructure, and most important is time to market or go to the market, right? Because it's all about meeting the business requirements. So that's where the second portion is. And third one is, and the environments are pretty much agile, very dynamic, right? Security, what is today is not what is there tomorrow. It all varies, right?
Yes.
So at moment of time, the security has to be ingrained into your applications. And that's what we pretty much tell in my past experience, also in the current one, is that when you're developing the applications, try to build in security. And there are tools. There's a lot of automation, orchestration that can be done. There are solutions which are available wherein you can have this whole component built into it, right? So I would like to say that DevSecOps is an important component when you're doing modernization, and that brings in agility, cost benefits, and most important of all is security.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jayesh. And we all agree that like shifting towards left, and on top of it, like bringing a security from the code level,
yeah,
and security by design kind of a principles.
Yes.
Modernization cannot exist without security, since like we cannot rush for the modernization without considering security as part of the journey. That's a really wonderful thought. In fact, like you touched upon, you enlightened us with various aspects of covering the DevSecOps actually entire journey. So coming to Sumit, to you. So with your like fraud prevention expertise and fraud monitoring expertise, how do you see like what is the real need for application modernization? So is it like the applications with legacy build are not sufficient enough to withhold the present day attacks or present day frauds which are happening in the the world right now? And is it like having legacy applications, are the not taking up the application modernization journey? Are we increasing our attack surface?
I mean, the question doesn't need an answer. The answer is yes, of course. And before even I start, just to go to Jayesh, the statement he was making. I mean, in a jest, if I may say so, and as I introduced, I work with a bank. I mean, so Jayesh would be a kind of colleague, in Standard Chartered Bank, with whom I would be having a day-to-day tussle or a fight, because he says that it will take 3 to 6 to 9 months, for an application to develop and refresh. As a business owner, as a fraud prevention framework owner, I don't have that kind of time in a bank. I have 3 hours, 6 hours, 9 hours. And app modernization, as we talk about app modernization, the framework itself is a little old for me from a bank perspective, because now we are talking about app refresh. So there is a legacy system which is there in place. You modernize the application which is there available through a legacy system upgrade, and then what we need to do on a day-to-day basis is an app refresh. So I was just quoting an example to my fellow panelists in the morning. Yesterday and day before yesterday, I would not name the country, but there was a live phishing attack we were witnessing in our bank, and I was part of the responsible team, who was preventing that attack for our banks. Now, in a span of few hours, when I say few hours, 20 to 23 hours, we lost millions of dollars because of a phishing attack which happened in our bank. And we had to devise a strategy in 23 hours. Now the attack is thankfully controlled, and that's what we understand right now. But in that duration of 20 to 24 hours, through our technical teams, through our fraud prevention teams, we have been able to upgrade our applications. We have been able to upgrade our rules. We have been able to test and deploy our rules, not just in one market, but across multiple markets. So there is a concept of app modernization, but there is also a concept of app refresh, which also has to happen, every now and then. And to Jayesh, answer your question, as a bank or as any financial institution, not just my bank, but I think, we need to be a little forward looking in terms of threats which are available in the market. So what we as a bank do and what we as a fraud or forensic professional do, we look for those threats and let's say risk available in the market, and we kind of start working our strategies towards those threats. So the upgradation of application and not just upgradation, if required replacement of an application is need of the hour. It's not just a talk or a conversation. The decision has to be taken within hours, within the bank as per the strategy, as per the cost implications. So these are real-time concerns which we face as a fraud and forensic professional within the financial institution.
Thank you, Sumit. Like coming back on the your suggestions for the application modernization. So, as a fraud prevention specialist, what you look into a application, like how the ideal application shall be to withstand the top three things you can enlighten us.
So, there are 3-4 things. So one, of course, is the capability to modernize the application, or let's say deviate the rules which are established when you establish the application. So as we say that the application amendment should be very agile in process. So that's one. Second, from security perspective, I mean, again, I'm speaking from the business conversation perspective. We can do all what we want, to prevent fraud, but that should not, create any friction for the customer or end consumer as well. So we can let's say put in place 1-factor, 2-factor, or 3-factor, or multi-factor authentication in place, to ensure that the customer is the one who's making the transaction across the client counters or across the client portals or the applications available. But this should not be, resulting into an inconvenience or a customer friction or a customer experience deterioration. So that's the second thing. And third important thing, which I think, as everybody mentioned, was cost. Because fraud loss for a bank is also a reputational loss, but it's also a dollar value cost. Now, we should not be focusing on the app modernization and app refresh so much that we end up incurring so much cost that more than what we are preventing from fraud losses.
Thank you, Sumit. There's a really wonderful balance between the the reputational loss or the the financial aspect of application moderation. We need to keep in mind while taking this moderation journey. Wonderful. Hima, to you, from a forensic perspective, the way you handle the forensics and all, what you look for, in an ideal application. Coming back from the Sumit's touch points. So, how a application shall be built to have a forensic track easily handled. So, for if anything happens, to have the audit track and the forensic track.
It's a great question, Sri. Thanks for asking the question. So before that, we want to make it like interactive session. If you have any questions, please raise your hands and ask. And first of all, what is app modernization? Can anyone tell, what is app modernization? What do you think about app modernization? Because different enterprises think app modernization and they perceive in multiple ways. Adding new features, right? Adapting to latest technologies, cloud. Microservices. So, right. So, app modernization is, every company wants to move to cloud. Everyone wants to move towards microservices, monolithic application, right? But are we really taking care of security, which should be part of our DNA as part of the engineering teams? So that should be the fundamental thing. So every organization, I think they should have the security best practices established as security as a service. It is not just that we have a product team working to move to cloud and we have some other security team who will be doing the security scans, Spotify scans, and we'll be waiting for that. They are not having the visibility of what we are doing, and they just do it to put the tick in the mark and we want to release it. It should not be like that. It should be like every product engineer should be aware of what's the security and what's the cost of if any security breach happens, right? Because when we talk about the agility, right? If we go back to 2 decades, Y2K problem, and pre-COVID and post-COVID, right? So a lot of disruption happened in terms of cybersecurity. Even the attackers are coming up with their own methodologies, and we should be like 2 steps, like 5 steps ahead of what attacker is thinking, right? So I think it should be part of the organization's security standards practices, what kind of security tools we use, and it should be from the engineering team where they could start and also evangelize security as part of their fundamental thing while developing the engineering practices. So that's about the security, right? When coming to the forensic perspective, how many of you are aware of digital forensics and what is digital forensics?
Yeah. So any breach, any data breach, or any attack happens. So in order to find out what has happened, who has done it, what impact it has occurred, and kind of so that this kind of investigation is a part of is a digital forensic.
Right. So this is like once incident happens, right? We do a digital postmortem, right? So it is basically the identification and also analysis and processing and extracting information by following a legal methodology with an approval from the authorization and also legalities. And then also you process the evidence and also create an evidence by preserving the original evidence, and you document it and you present the evidence in the court of law in a legally acceptable format, that is like LX01 or AFF4 or EX01 formats. So towards this, everyone, then now it is all digitization, right? It's all extracting the information from a digital device. So it can be from a mobile, desktop, or it can be from a any device. It can be from your iPad or a smartphone, any device that can read zeros and ones. That's all about digital forensics, right? So when we connect the dots, app modernization and digital forensics, I think it's, I agree with the fellow panelists just now, Jayesh, touched in detail like how we need to have the DevSecOps as part of the security best practices. In a similar manner, it's better to be proactive than reactive. It's better to be safe than sorry if the incident happened and looking at it, because the forensic postmortem and once the incident happened, right, the expenses are more, right? Because any disruption, it may take like few seconds or a minute. They want to notoriously become like famous for bad things overnight, and they want to gain the attraction by doing some ransom attack or something. But the cost to recover it, we don't have time. It is taking like any forensic postmortem, we have to analyze like terabytes of data, and it takes like sometimes months, weeks, maybe years. So it's very, very important to have the fundamentals and train your engineers to have the secure development lifecycle practices and what are the do's and don'ts to be practiced across the organization. And I also wrote a blog post in my LinkedIn. In the interest of time, I'm not sharing how part and what are those. You can go through those details. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Just
Yeah,
to
Josh,
add,
go ahead.
it takes few minutes to compromise anybody, and it takes some $60 to $100 or $200 to hack somebody with, and then create a havoc. But the cost to recover, number one, and we have got a live example here, and he already said that they already lost few $1 million in a gap of few hours. That's one part of it, and then create enough and more evidence to go back and present it to get the recovery, right? And that recovery is not known how much that can be, whether it will really cover the business loss. But apart from that, the bigger loss is from an reputation perspective and customer perspective. Now, they must have done some compromise with some customer data. You are actually not making the customers happy, and then the reputation loss is also significantly high. So at the end of it, when all these things done, and we all say that security needs to be ingrained, it's easier said than done, but then that needs to be done. There are various tools and technologies available, but people need to embrace it so that it gets into it, right? And it's part of the practice.
Very, very valuable, Jayesh. In fact, like I completely agree with you. Is not only for like the recovery perspective or to have the track, but like also for learning perspective. So to avoid the future instances of happening the same thing, we shall have like lessons learned kind of a thing. We need to maintain the track. Completely agree with you on that one. And Hima, thank you very much for making the session very lively and bringing in the true engineering expert in you onto the table and like adding the value from your experience. And I believe like the one aspect which you touched, Hima, like bringing in the SSDLC to be precise, into the application modernization journey is really need of the hour, and it help organization build the robust applications, secure enough applications for to adopt the modernization journey. So coming back, Vimalji, like you touched upon like how speed we can move into the digitization with like modernization. So what is your top 3 suggestions, especially like when we wanted to have as big as the organization you are driving right now? So how we can like say the accelerate the modernization journey in volume?
Okay, like this journey is to be seen from majorly 3 aspects. The first important is the cost. So if we talk about the cost, so cost has to be managed so that we maximize the organization benefit. Because if you see, I mean not the current environment, even in the past, say 20, 25 years back, when we had a antivirus era which used to be there, and virus used to be always latest than the antivirus. So I mean, it has to be a continuous process, and the cost has to be managed around it, because you can't keep on spending money in just hit and trial. So that is one important aspect, is managing the costs. And second important point is the reliability, because reliability is the key today. And in reliability, the important part is the recovery. So if because as I told, these guys are more smarter than the solution providers, we have to take that. But yes, how to become more smarter to prevent them is to, we have to bring in the reliability engine into our design, which talks about envisaging the scenarios upfront. So like building a rule, what we were discussing in the morning, that after the phishing attack, they are modifying the rules. Can we have a AI supported such rules as part of the design, so that we cover maximum scenario and improve the reliability of the modernization journey? And the last and a very critical thing is the efficiency, because end of the day we put cost, we put all the rules, and my business application slows down. So my operational efficiency by design is going down. So that check also has to be there when we are designing our or modernizing our applications.
Thank you, Bimal. These are the important points. Latency and efficiency need to be considered before modernizing. So, we audiences, before we go back to the audiences, I just like to touch base with Sumit. Like you wanted to add any inputs which we all can take away from here from a fraud prevention perspective. So, why we need to go from preventive to reactive, protective to reactive, to be precise? On top of it, like what is your top 3 suggestions in terms of like from a truly fraud prevention perspective?
Sure. So I think one important point which Hima mentioned was the phrase forensic. I mean, as any risk professional, that phrase should be embedded in our minds. I mean, while we are talking about the responsive or the reactive strategies for any organization, we should be able to install digital tools and applications which can establish audit trail of the entire let's say journey of investigation. That's one, and it should also enable us to secure the evidence of whatever misdemeanor has happened within the organization. So these are very two important facts, while we are thinking about or let's say modernization for an organization in terms of application. That's one. Second, the prevention and reactive strategy, it's a fine balance. There is so much you can do, to prevent fraud. It's a balance between the cost and the strategy of the any organization. But from prevention strategy perspective, 2 or 3 things which I think are very important is that we need to be very forward-looking. I mean, we cannot just base our, let's say, strategy or base our direction or base our vectors in terms of whatever has already happened in the bank or in the organization. We need to be aware of what is happening globally. across multiple organizations, across multiple banks, across data privacy and data leakages incidents which are happening across the globe. So we need to be aware of what is our horizon threat. So that's one phrase we keep on working within the organization. The second thing, prevention strategy, is that we need to be very aware of which are the areas, and when I talk about areas, we are talking about significant. I assume that there are people in the hall who are also working with global organizations. So we need to be geographically focused as well. We know there are tensions between Russia and Ukraine. We know there are some COVID challenges happening in China right now. So there are miscreants who are taking advantages of these situations across the globe and try to perpetrate our let's say apps and security measures which we have installed within our organizations. So we need to be aware of these incidents and geopolitical situations which are happening globally. The third important part is from organization perspective, and I keep on saying this. I think Bimalji also discussed that, is the cost. I mean, the dollar loss value should not be greater than dollar invested value unless it's a regulatory cost. I mean, there is a very fine balance between that. I mean, between me and my team, we can hire 5,000 people, we can create 5,000 security measures, but is it actually preventing something which can happen to the bank? So it's an ongoing discussion. I mean, I may keep on asking for more dollar budgets to invest in my app modernization and app security measures, but is there a business loss? Is there a business need which justifies my security agenda? So these, I think, would be the top 3 preventive strategies which I may look at.
Thank you, Sumit. I think they are the very key important things to be considered while strategizing the reactive strategy actually for app modernization. I agree with Bimalji, like on the knife is sharper than the neck concept actually. So always the virus is latest than the antivirus actually. So coming back to you, Hima, like we need your support in understanding. See, when the name of modernization comes actually, when the time of modernization comes, everyone rushes for building the business ready applications. There we normally have a least priority given to the privacy. So how about the PAs and FIAs of the customers need to be considered in the modernization journey? What is the from a forensics perspective?
It should be a number 1 priority. Compared to Europe or China or other countries, in India, its privacy laws are like you all know, right? You go to a supermarket, they ask for your personal information, date of birth, and they keep on calling. And all of us might be getting number of calls from unknown people asking for loan and all. Today morning also I got up and I was checking my messages. I got a WhatsApp message saying like your application is processed and you will be getting like 60,000 per day. Please click on this link. It's like too good to be true, right? I have not applied for anything, but how did they get my number and data and how? So and there are a lot of people who are not aware of this, right? So it's innocence, right? Ignorance, like. So we should be cyber resilient to understand how our privacy is getting compromised, and we should be like cyber practitioners, not to compromise on these attacks or these kind of things. And the recent thing is QRishing. So everywhere you go, scan this QR code and follow us. Or so what we do? Okay, QR code means like there is a genuine thing and we scan it on, right? But when you really do it, yesterday also there was a good session happened on cyber forensics. Sastri Garu, and he was really presenting about it. So there is a new scam that attackers are actually doing. So please ensure that you don't scan any QR codes without a genuine link or without the genuine source of information. And if possible, please disable all your PowerShell scripts in your operating system, because that is where the attacks can happen from your system, and it can actually go to every machine in the organization, right? And also, anyway, we all will have organizations, forensic practices and cyber practices, but we just attend them just to be compliant, right? But as Jesh mentioned, right, it should be imbibed, it should be part of our organization culture, and everyone should be a security evangelist for their engineering teams, and to be a cyber practitioner and cyber SE. And at the end, I would like to conclude that humans are the weakest links in the security. And there are a lot of insider threats that are happening, and we all should pledge that whether it is personal data or privacy data or a professional data, we are all responsible, and it should start from me and us, not from me. Thank you.
Wonderful. I like the concept actually. Human is the weakest link, and we can upgrade the machines, not the humans actually. So we need version upgrade of humans to make that weakest link the best link and the safest link. And thank you, Hima, on that one. Like I completely agree with you that like when we devise the applications and we like build the applications, we need to consider the aspects of the user data, especially building the QR codes and all. We need to have that, since it's not only the business loss but like it's additional loss also. That was the electrifying panel today. And yeah, Somit, like you have
Just
a point.
one point, so that all of you know that I have two phones. One phone is only to scan QR codes. So that my data doesn't get. So it's very important that you should understand that QR code scanning is not a small thing which you're doing. You're compromising your entire life by scanning any QR code.
Really?
Just one more point before we conclude. A couple of my colleagues are here, and this comes from my experience at Wipro as well, is that from a security standpoint, it's all about continuously orienting yourself, putting making them conscious, and still, I can just relate about a breach that had happened with Wipro after, and that was an APT. After 9 months and 29 attempts, finally it was breached, and a lot of them here are aware of it. And a classical case is again here. We just heard from him, and it was because of a very, and it's a known thing that happens across the organization, but because of that, that breach had happened, right? So it's about orienting them, and secondly is that we all also have a practice of testing the people whether they are aware of the various security aspects, right? So there's ongoing testing as well. The third thing is at the end of the day we are going to cloud, we are integrating the APIs. The only thing that you can do about is safeguarding yourself, and and especially with application modernization, we are going out. The best thing is to safeguard yourself. That's the only way out, right? Yeah.
Wonderful. So that was really very electrifying discussion. In fact, like a lot of very key were discussed and suggested. So we'll open the panel for audience. Like if anyone wanted to take any input or have a point make here for the panelists here. We have very highly experienced and esteemed panelists here with diversified experiences and diversified domains. Any questions or any clarifications? Very well. Then thank you very much. Thanks for the kind audience of this session, and thanks for the all of you, my fellow panelists, and thanks to you, Aditya and Shaurya, for being so patient and being like a highly planning this session. And thanks to the DSCI for this wonderful opportunity to all of us.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
For